Oh, okay. So, hello everyone, and welcome to this online conference of Executive Master in Digital Twins for Infrastructure and Cities. And today's session will present the vCity Urban Digital Twin Platform, which is designed to assess the impact of interventions across various aspects of city life and simulate the long-term effects of urban policies. I am Juan Benavente, and I am a researcher at Transit, the Transport Research Center of the Universidad Politécnica de Madrid. And today's speakers are Antía Fernández from Arup and Patricio Reyes from the Barcelona Supercomputing Center. We work together in one of the capstone projects. They are the company supervisors, and I am the academic supervisors. The capstone project is Urban Digital Twin for evaluating and simulating safe routes to schools. And I think I saw Nicole, one of our students, connected to the room. So hello. And very briefly, I'm going to introduce today's both speakers. Antía is a senior digital transformation consultant at Arup. This company addresses challenges such as territorial resiliency, the life cycle of infrastructures, sustainable urban growth, safe mobility, and citizen participation. She also has experience as an architect and urban planner in Madrid and Rio de Janeiro. And in the past edition of this master's, she was the valedictorian. Patricio Reyes is the head of Urban Data Science and a senior researcher at the Data Analytics and Visualization Group of the Barcelona Supercomputing Center. He holds a PhD degree in computer science from the Université Côte d'Azur. He is an expert in various topics, including wireless mesh networks, graph theory, network design, computational complexity theory, approximation algorithms, combinatorial optimization, information retrieval, and mind planning. And without any further words, please, Antía.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Juan. It's a pleasure to be here to be introducing today the vCity platform. We have been closely working with Patricio Reyes and the Barcelona Supercomputing Center team during this past year, developing different aspects of the platform. And we think it's an outstanding example of how to build an urban digital twin that is both technically feasible and it's conceived from the very beginning from a people-centric approach. So, as you mentioned, the current capstone was partially inspired by vCity, and it was initially conceived as a use case of the platform. So I would like to hand it over to Patricio so he can present the platform and the VSC. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Antía. Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. So let's start. As Antía and Juan already mentioned, today we're going to talk about vCity and why this is so important and why we call that this a human-centered platform for urban digital twins. So we're actually collaborating with Arup, and you will see here that in a couple of slides, Antía will take the lead to talk about what Arup is doing in this platform. So let's start. Let's start from scratch. Why is vCity a human-centered platform, and why we're working on urban digital twins? So, but before that, I'd like to just talk to you about the BSC, okay? Because maybe most of you don't know what BSC is. So, but BSC is the Barcelona Supercomputing Center. We are the National Supercomputer Center here in Spain, and we are one of the 7, if I'm not mistaken, supercomputer centers in Europe. So our goal is actually to foster the research in Europe and to provide their researchers capabilities, HPC, high performance computing capability. So just to mention that in Barcelona Computing Center, I'm a member of the Data Analytics and Visualization Group. And within the Data Analytics and Visualization Group, I'm leading what's called the Urban Data Science. So I would like to talk to you about vCity and again, let's start first. Sorry, I'm kind of interested in talking about vCity, but let's start with VSC. So VSC is a supercomputer center. We provide services to Europe. we host, and this is important in the world, I think that we host one of the most powerful supercomputing in the world. I have a photo about the Monostrom later. As you may know, as a computer center, as a research center, we do research, we do R&D, mostly in computer science, life sciences, earth sciences, and engineering, okay? And for sure, if you're interested, for sure, we have PhD programs, and we also work with companies in the ways of tech transfer that I will talk about it later. So the machine, I mean, the monster, actually, this is the Monostrom 5, and this is, as far as I remember, I mean, according to this month top ranking, is in 11 in the top 500 most powerful supercomputer in the world, okay? It's a big machine, which actually in the building where I am right now. And again, this is devoted for research in Europe. Even though we say that we have this supercomputer, please keep in mind that we are just hosting this machine. This is the photo. I think that this is the big picture, I would say, literally, of the Monostrom 5. So it's installed in the building where I am. And you can see, actually, for those who know a little bit of technicalities, the racks on the left are the CPU ones, and the racks on the right are the one devoted to GPUs. There are, as far as I remember, 5,000 GPUs on this rack. I think it's one of the most important GPU clouds, I'd say, in Europe. So this is a consortium. It's an investment of, at this moment, 350 million euro. And again, it's a hosting consortium from Spain, Portugal, and Turkey. And if you want to have an idea on how important, how fast this supercomputer is, notice that the petaflops. Petaflop is a kind of how many floating points calculation a computer can do in a second. Is 314 petaflops. Petaflops mean 10 to the power of 50. So it's difficult to imagine, how important this is. By the way, if you have any questions, I mean, just put it on the chat, and then we can later on talk about it. So this is more or less you can see here that we are involved in this European ecosystem of supercomputers, and all the countries in dark blue are the ones that are, I mean, conforming this network of HPC computation. So let's move on to vCity, and with Antía we discussed that it would be great, to try to present first how it started. I mean, how we started working on digital twins, and how we started working on these sort of simulations. So you can see here, for example, that we were involved in a project within the Football Club Barcelona. Actually, this is the Football Club Barcelona. And you will see here that we got access to the, building, I'd say the architecture, the BIM, for those who don't know that what is, of all the building of the Camp Nou. So for those who don't know, the Camp Nou is being refurbished. I mean, not just refurbished, renovated actually. And we enter into European project where we have the mission to develop the evacuation plans. And you can see here that this is a real simulation and how people is entering into the stadium. Okay, let me try to show you. Okay, this is the real simulation. Every dot indicates one person, one user, one spectator. And the funny thing is, maybe this is actually important for you to know, that one thing is to develop a simulation. It's kind of easy, but the difficult thing is how to calibrate the simulation, how to do it real. And that's why it's important for that, because later on I would like to talk about the human-centric approach of vCity. So in order to simulate the Camp Nou and the evacuation plans, we first need to understand the users, and the user profiling. So we need to use user profiling. As you can see here, 0 indicates when every match starts. And you can see that the members just arrived to the stadium just 5 minutes in advance. But you can notice that the tourists, they usually arrive, 1 hour and a half in advance, because they want to go to the museum or to go for a hot dog. So this is important to understand, that not all the spectators are equal, not the spectators are the same, and it's important to do first the user profiling. And that's important later while we're talking about vCity. So let's move on to the next one, if I can. Okay, so we also started working on what we call the anatomy of the city. Okay, you can see on the left, which is a collaboration with the Advanced Institute of Advanced Architecture in Catalonia, the IAC. And with them, we try to structure a first approach, a first idea on how the different, components of a city in a holistic way, for sure. And then we move on to the diagram on the right, when you will see that there is a paper about it, where we again decided to disentangle what are the main components, again, in a really holistic way on how a city works, okay? And this is actually the beginning on our approach in simulations and how to structure the city. And I think that I wanna just let you know as a starting point. And then we move on, for example, with a collaboration with the Barcelona City Council. The Barcelona City Council commissioned to us the platform that you will see here, and it's a platform for accessibility. Okay, you are actually aware of 15-minute cities, and this is a lecture on how to understand the facilities, understand accessibility to the facilities. For example, in this case, you will see Madrid and how the hospitals are distributed across Madrid. And the yellow area indicates, in this case, that these hospitals can be reached within 15 minutes by walking, okay? So we did it by walking, by driving, and by cycling, and we can tune the minutes, to every hospital in this case. And it's not only just for Madrid. In this case, we use open source data, so we did this platform for every, so almost all the cities actually in the world, but this is used particularly in Barcelona for the Barcelona City Council. Okay, so this is the beginning. So let's move on to the city. So with all of these approaches that I just showed, we decided to start a massive project, I would say, to foster this urban digital twin ecosystem. Okay, vCity is a project, as you see here, is an evidence-based platform to assess the impact of interventions on all aspects of city life. It's based on three pillars. It should be human-centric, and I will discuss it later, and Altia will discuss it later. It should be modular. This is important because if you wanna come up with a solution, with a future-proof solution, it's important that the solution must be modular, in the same than plug and play, I'd say. This should be like different use cases and different scenarios should be like Lego blocks, and you can put together depending on the city, okay? And this is quite important. And for sure, as you might understand, this could be adaptable, I'd say. This should be adapted to the different needs and actually, I'd say, tailored to the different city needs, okay? Just to mention that we will show later that this is cannot be done by just techie people in a supercomputer center. This is a multidisciplinary team. In our team, we are actually more than 30 people right now. And we are actually working with 30 subcontractors. And actually, Arup is one of those subcontractors. This is a project from the Next Generation EU, from European funds, but coming from the Ministry of Digital Transformation within the framework of the UNICO R&D cloud. So let's move on to the main part of the story, I'd say. So I like to divide this into three main areas. So in one area, we will discuss about what vCity is. I can spoiler alert, it's a platform, okay? It's a platform, it's an open source platform that any city can interact with. It's like, for example, for those who know about spatial tools, it's like a QGIS, okay? But for cities, but specifically tailored for urban planners, let's say, okay? So we will discuss, I'll briefly show how the platform looks like right now. Then I will discuss about the different use cases that have been co-created with the cities. And then I just mentioned that because we are a research center, we're working in parallel on the infrastructure and the, I'd say, or the code development, I'd say, but also on research. So I'll show to you a couple of studies that we are working on. So the platform, this cannot be done from a supercomputing center, we know just typing on the keyboards, okay? So this is important to let you know that we went to the cities. We are actually particularly involved with Barcelona, Viladecans, which is a city next to Barcelona. I'll tell you later why they decided to go for these 3 cities, but also Kobe in Japan. And we did 3 cities. We decided to go there and to really interact with the urban planners and with the different members of the city council. So it's key, and actually this is one of the main takeaways. It's really important to understand what are the city needs, because it's not one size fits all. I mean, this is, I can guarantee you. So we went there, and actually you can see in this photo that we are actually testing different user interfaces, for example, for the platform that I will show you later. And we also went with different subcontractors to try to identify what are the needs and what will be the right design for the right user, okay? We also co-create with them the scenarios, but also the indicator that can be seen on every scenario. Because again, it's not one size fits all. So this is how it looked like. This is how the platform looked right now. So you will enter into a kind of a sort of main authentication password. Then you will go to the Living Labs, to the 5 use cases. I will briefly discuss about it later. And then if you click on, in this case, bikeability or cycling, you will enter into this page. And this is kind of a 3D map, or it could be 2D as well. In this case of Barcelona, when you can click on the different layers, you can depict on. And based on that, you can generate different scenarios, okay? Imagine that, for example, you want to extend the cycling network in Barcelona, but you need to first, put a new park in the city. So how the bike lane will be affected by the park. This is one case of scenarios that we are actually approaching with these solutions. I mean, what will be next? How to create different scenarios? What about if we start actually building a new bike lane here? Let's assume that there is no bike lane, but that there is actually already a bike lane here. Let's assume that we are identifying that this could be I'd say a good intervention to build a new bike lane here. How the metrics will be impacted, and according to the metrics, the urban planner should decide whether this is the right solution or not. This is more or less what we have in mind on the platform. At this moment, this is a prototype. Actually, it's working. I can show you later the web page. But this is more or less the, I would say, look and feel of the platform. So you'll be interactive with different layers, with different data layers. And you see that on the right, you will have different metrics, but also different plots about it. Okay, this is more or less it. Again, if you have any questions, please put it on the chat and we can actually talk and discuss it. Okay, so this is more or less the look and feel, I'd say. So one side, remember the platform, then the use cases. I mean, actually the models behind this platform, and then the studies. So let's talk about the use cases now. With the cities, we decided to co-create 5 use cases, and those are the ones that are summarized here. Cycling, as I talked to you before, how to extend the bike cycling network, and how to do it in a good manner. And what does good manner mean? I mean, for example, what are the indicators that I really need to take into account in order to decide whether I should go for a cycling this way or in that way, okay? Breathing. related to air quality. All the cities we are talking to, they are really into air quality, and they want to know how to approach this, and I prefer to explain it on with the slides. Mobility, as you may imagine, cities are now going to a kind of moving towards sustainable mobility and how to do the sustainable model shifting, actually. Sustainability, it's more into how to embrace this idea of circular economy, that we'll discuss it later. And last but not least, proximity, which is actually an extension, I would say, of the platform that was commissioned for the Barcelona City Council that I showed before. I mean, this idea of 15-minute cities with a new rebranding and with more scenarios to perform. So I have just one slide per use case or per living lab, but feel free to, we can discuss it later and I can give you more detail on that. So I don't want to go really technical on it. So I just have one slide per use case. And you will see here that I present the 5 of them. So let's start with breathing, air quality. Our approach is different to the one that you could see in really kind of supercomputing centers. The idea is just to democratize the use of supercomputers to cities that they don't have access to them, okay? So in this way, I think you can see my cursor, I guess so. So this is the input geometry. So starting from the beam, I'll say how to say the information of the buildings of the city, plus the canopy of the trees, we can identify how the air flows across the city. It just, 5 meters high, for example. So you can see we can train a model, and I'm going to go into details. And with this data, the data from different cities, plus the canopy of the trees, the buildings, and the information of the air quality, we can train a model, and we can use this model in other cities. Okay, this is the typical, training framework. So in that way, this is our input, and this is our output, roughly speaking, and the output will incorporate, you can see, the airflow across this city. Again, this is important because we, as a supercomputing center, we take the lead on training the model, but then we can use the model with any other city without the supercomputing. So that's why it's important, because again, we are trying to democratize this technology to any other city without supercomputer capabilities. So let's move on to sustainability. Again, sustainability is the idea of, we needed to create an indicator of how cities are embracing this idea of circular economy, how the preparedness of the cities to embrace this circular economy. So to do that, you can see on this map that we depicted the more than 8,000 municipalities in Spain, and the greener the better in terms of the indicator. And we just take information that you can see depicted on this wheel. By the way, the colors are different. This is just 2 plots matched together, but don't think that the red one is this one, okay? So you will see that with data coming from energy, climate, and resources, waste, mobility, and digitalization, we took these 15 indicators, as far as I remember, and we just mixed them in a weighted sum and mixed them together and put them together in just one indicator per city. And in that way, you can see an idea of how cities are prepared for the circular economy, okay? In terms of methodology, this is sort of simple, I would say. The important thing here is how to treat the data, how to integrate the data, gather the data, and how to really do a kind of solution that's really good for the cities, okay? So let's move on to the next one. Mobility. In terms of mobility, what we're doing now is we are doing simulations of how public transportation, pedestrian, and cars are moving across the city. For those who know, this is actually Plaza España in Barcelona, and we can simulate all of this part of Barcelona with an open source software, which is called Sumo. we decided to use to go with Zoom, which is a micro simulation model that can be run in big computers, I'd say, to keep it simple. But the important thing here is that this is an open source software running on big computers, I'd say. Oops, sorry, I don't know what I did. Okay, well, this is totally unexpected, but it's good for you that I have the video here of the simulation. Okay. So you can see here that this is actually the real simulation of running on Sumo. By the way, keep in mind that this is not the user interface of vCity. This is just a simulation that will be integrated in vCity. So you can see there that we are simulating pedestrians, we are simulating cars, where the traffic lights are. Okay. And you will notice later on that this is where the metro goes, actually. And you can see, for example, buses and so on and so forth. Okay. So just to let you know an idea of what we're doing and how we are working on that. Okay, cool. So let me try to go back to the presentation. Just a moment, but I think that I don't know how to put it on. Just a moment. Okay, and then okay. So let me just try to find you where you are. Okay. So far so good. Okay. So that was mobility. So let's move on to the next one, and the one was cycling, as I mentioned to you before. Again, the idea of this model is to have a tool to understand how to extend the bike network cycle path. Okay, this was really important for Viladecans. They really want to know how to extend the bike lanes infrastructure, and we started working on that. First, we needed to digitalize most of the infrastructure, and then categorize in terms of, let's say, for example, if it's a double bike lane or it's a single bike lane, how protected they are, how safe they are. Okay, so based on that, we put all of this information into the platform, and then the urban planner can tailor different scenarios. And again, according to the metrics of different scenarios, he or she can decide what's the best solution. And then last but not least, the one that you showed before, this is actually not the final interface, but again, the idea of proximity is how to embrace this idea of, let's say, 15-minute cities, but in broad terms. I mean, how cities distributing different facilities. For example, you will see later that we did a study on climate shelters for heat vulnerable population. So you can see that Barcelona is distributing climate shelters that could be, for example, libraries, and how those libraries are distributed across the city with respect to the people that really needs this solution. Okay, so those are the 5 main use cases that we are working on right now. But this is actually the first use cases, and that we use as a plug and play solutions, as I said before. The idea is to incorporate more solutions to the platform, and that's why we are actually standardizing the APIs. So as I mentioned to you before, I mean, I want to just divide this into platform use cases and studies. So I really want to introduce to you what we are doing research on that. So we perform a platform with what I mentioned before. Barcelona is really aware of climate shelters, especially for summer, because of heat vulnerable population. So we acquired data on where heat vulnerable population lives, I would say. So you can see the red, the more people, heat vulnerable people living there. So this is a really fine grid of social demographics or where people is living. And on top of that, we actually depicted the distribution of the different climate shelters. You will see that this kind of blue area is the coverage of the climate shelters within 10 minutes. You can see there are still empty spots there, and that's why Barcelona is working on it. But overall, you will see that in terms of climate shelter distribution for summer, I think that Barcelona is doing well. So this is one of the studies, and we are publishing a couple of research papers on that. We also performed another study on circular city index. The idea was to present our results in an easy way to be totally understandable for all the citizens, actually. And that's why we prepared a platform that you can see the webpage at the bottom. Well, you can actually see what are the most important indicators for this solution. So that's it. Remember that I talked to you about the platform, then I talked to you about the 5 use cases, but please keep in mind that apart from all of this infrastructure, we are a research center and we're doing research on top of it. So I'd like to talk to people-centered solutions, and I think that it would be great that Antia could lead this part.
Thank you, Patricio, for all the description of the platform use cases and vCity. Hope that now you'll have a better idea on how vCity is structured and the key objectives of it. So the idea this section aims to highlight why the importance of creating a urban digital twin that is people-centric. As you know, there are many different platforms that already define, deploy, operate, and maintain urban digital twins with commercial licenses and so on. So if you go next, but the idea and the core of vCity is to be a public. It has become, as Patricio already mentioned, it was born from public contract with many different contractors and people working on it. So from this co-creation approach, it's important to mention that against other examples that, as you may know, like most urban digital twins chase this interoperability, dashboard, 3D renders, which are kind of necessary but not sufficient just to develop a platform for all citizens. So without these clear aims and shared rules, many of these ideas and platforms stall at demo stages or just kind of reinforce existing power balances. So we wanted to emphasize this here with these ideas on putting more, not just effort on this data plumbing, but also attention to the social impact of it. So if we go next, part of the region and one of the Eurocities is one of the partners in the consortium. In the Eurocities Digital Forum 2024, they stressed that digital transformation is a social challenge, which requires inclusive, people-centric approaches. So with one in 3 Europeans lacking these basic digital skills, there are already cities such as Rotterdam and London that are already bridging gaps through access training and local support networks. So what is clear is these kind of platforms, the urban digital twins, need to accomplish what smart cities emphasize at the beginning, which need smart and empowered citizens. So if you go next as well. So unlike other similar initiatives, the vCity takes this human-centric approach to digitalizing the urban decision-making, with the idea that the smart city is not just defined by the number of sensors, but by the quality of the decisions taken. And they need to be grounded on the real needs of the people. So that's why vCity the next version of vCity, if I'm correct, Patricio. It's including the CDIM, which probably many of you already know, which is a digital participation platform that it's already used in more than 200 cities in the world. So it is a very powerful platform, and they cover one of the weakest aspects that many urban digital twins already lacked currently, which is giving access and providing access to citizens. So if you go next. So we include here, let's say, like 6 people first imperatives on why urban digital twins need a common oriented people-centric design. So to give you just a framework on why we think it is important. So the first is the legitimacy and trust. So all decisions simulated in a twin often lead straight to budgets, bylaws, or sometimes even bulldozers. So when residents understand the model and have helped shaping it, they're more likely to accept and even champion some of the outcomes. And the opacity, by contrast, can even sink a project. And we have a very good example here, which is the Sidewalk Toronto, which was cancelled after privacy issues with it. The second one is around the regulatory duty. So now EU policies hard code human-centric principle, let's say. So for instance, the AI Act, the Data Governance Act, or the forthcoming Census Act standards. So having a people-centric team is not just simply a good practice, but now it's becoming a funding and compliance baseline for platforms. Thirdly, we have these better decisions with and for the community. So local knowledge, so the local knowledge of the people from the citizens can kind of feel like these sensor blind spots, let's say. So combining this real-time data with lived experience allows planners to test scenarios, define them with the feedback of the users, and land the options that the citizens find valuable. The fourth is around transparency and accountability. So opens and comprehensible models with one trusted version of the truth to the citizens, to the officials, to the business. And this, at the end, we will have a common referential. This is the main of the audit that builds the confidence and makes it clear who is responsible and to what outcome, let's say. The fifth is equity, inclusion, and innovation. So co-creation, crowdsourcing, these surface all these issues that disproportionately affect vulnerable people and vulnerable groups, and tend to spark novel ideas rather than a purely tech-driven approach. So this is super important to accomplish what is now called the digital divide in Europe. And thirdly, and finally, the ethical commons-based governance. So digital twins are representation, just not neutral mirrors of the reality. So treating this data and algorithms as civic commons, subject to privacy, bias checks, and public oversight, ensures that the twin serves the collective well-being and not just like narrow commercial interests and political interests. So that was mainly it for the people-centric approach. So now we can jump, Patricio, into this multidisciplinary approach, which I think is super important and very connected to this idea of building these commons approach to the project.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, we just one as Cynthia mentioned, this is a multidisciplinary approach. I mean, it's impossible just to do this. I mean, big task. I mean, with from just one supercomputer center. I mean, this is. I mean, we need to integrate cities, but what I mean cities, city councils, but also citizens, urban planners, and a lot of actually people, a lot of institutions involved. So I just briefly summarize and just give credit to all this group of people. Actually, we are more than 30 members right now, the Data Analytics and Visualization Group, and we are part of the Barcelona Supercomputing Center. and most of this team is working on vCity right now. And maybe you can recognize the advisors that we selected advisors from the research, from the industry, for the urban policies, and code development as well, ethics and standardization. So I think it's important that this is and should be. I just that it's important to repeat this. I mean, this must be as multidisciplinary as possible, and I think that it's reflected on the advisors. But also, as I talked to you before, I mean, we're not doing infrastructure, we're not doing around policies, we're also doing research because we are a research center, and we gather a kind of a research network of people working on that as well. This is key. Those are the collaborators, and you can see that Arup is one of our collaborators here for this story. So you will see that there are more than 30, as far as I remember, collaborators here, and this is just the starting point to work on different topics. You can see that there are collaborators coming from the user interface, backends, for example. There are events, for example, Festival Sonar, Festival Cria, Eurocities regarding I mean, to try to push forward urban policies at European level, the Institute of Advanced Catalonia, and so on and so forth. You'll see that there is data providers as well. There is a huge ecosystem of institutions that later on Arup and here we'll talk about Arup as well. So the huge ecosystem working together for this mission of providing digital twins for cities. In terms of the roadmap, this is not a kind of a specific roadmap. It's just to give you an idea of what's done and what we plan to do next. So as I mentioned before, we already have 5 use cases, and those are the use cases that were selected with the cities. At the moment, we have 3 official, I would say, quotes, official city involved. Okay. We're also working with Eurocities in a way to gather a community of cities around this idea of digital twins, and that's why we actually organize a workshop here on 2024 at BSC, where more than 15 cities, with more than 15 cities that we work together and try to document the process and try to gather a little bit what are the city needs and what are the main takeaways for that. And we also decided a preliminary city ontology and data model that actually this is one of the areas that Antia is leading on vCity. So what's next? What the future roadmap? Please, Antia, correct me if I'm wrong, or if you want to comment on that. But we will be working on a city ontology for sure. And the idea of the city ontology is how to standardize this process for digital twins as well. We plan to incorporate more than 5 use cases, but for the 5 use cases that are now in a prototype level, we need to put it on in production level, I would say. This is our plan. Again, in terms of having a future-proof platform, it's important to standardize the API. I mean, how to do the plug and play for the different models, I would say. I'm not going to go into technicalities, but we are standardizing this plug, I would say, to connect the different models. And we also just want to emphasize that we will have a new session of the Eurocities Academy co-located with the Smart City World Expo here in Barcelona, actually here at BSC on November. And for sure, we are looking for new European research funding to try to continue this process on what we did, but how now it will evolve into a kind of a more mature digital twin platform. In terms of standards, and Tia, please correct me if you want, or if you want to comment on that, but I just want to say from my side that at BSc level, at vCity, we believe that this is kind of a massive challenge, and we need to be in line with Europe on that regard. So that's why we are part of the MIMS, the minimum interpretable mechanism. I mean, in a way to identify what are these kind of plug and play methodologies to work on. We're also part of the Living in EU initiative, which is a group of cities working together on digitalization but also on digital twin. And actually, Eurocities is one of the organizers as well. We're also involved in what's called the EDIC Local Digital Twin. This is a new, I would say, initiative to foster digital twin and local digital twins in Europe. For those who don't know, this is a new hit on the block, I would say, in terms of European initiatives, and we're working together with the EDIC as well. So that's more or less what to give you an idea that this is not an effort of only one center. This should be done and in taking into account what's the needs for Europe. At the moment, as I said before, we're working with Barcelona, Viladecans, and Kobe. But at the moment, we are really happy to integrate more cities into this approach, I would say. So if one of your cities, or if one city is interesting in any use case that we have, it's easy for us to just to use the use case and to just, I'd say, roughly speaking, to put the data inside the model, run the model, and do the solutions for your city. If your city think that it could be great to co-create a new use case, that's perfect as well. So we can actually look for funding to go on a really tailor-made solution, new use case for the city. And I just like to finish. Please, Antia, just raise your hand if you want to comment on anything apart from that. But just want to mention that again, this is an effort from the funds from the Next Generation EU funds. I mean, with the Plan de Recuperación, Transformación y Resiliencia program from the Ministry of Digital Transformation. And without further ado, I think that